Have you ever noticed that whenever we go through a major disruption, there's usually major growth that follows that disruption? And I'm not just talking about personal growth, I'm talking about societal growth, the collective growth, planetary growth. We all go through our individual change and response to disruption. And then there's like a collective response that happens. And we can see that happening in everything that's going on in the world. It's like all of a sudden evolution leaps based on a whole bunch of us getting the message at the same time. So I do believe that change isn't here to break us. It's here to awake us. And I believe that that's beginning to show itself from what I'm seeing, as I said on previous episodes, around, there's a mass awareness now around self-regulation, around psychology, around nervous system regulation, around trauma informed. There's a mass awareness that before that wasn't the case. And that is a gift of social media, and that is a gift of AI created content, because now information is exponentially expanding and increasing. And while it requires more discernment, it's also wakening up more and more people. And as more and more people on the planet get access to internet and AI, as is happening, then we have even more collective inputs that are informing us as a complete humanity. And so when I say change isn't here to break us, it's here to awaken us, I want you to think about with me for a few moments. Let's play a game around thinking of some of life's major disruptions that you've experienced from childhood all the way to where you are now. And this is not a psychology exercise. This is an exercise in pattern awareness around, wait a minute, what did that disruption create for me? What did it cause for good or for redirection? And so, we can look at our lives, and an exercise that I do recommend you do, and this is a coach-driven exercise that many coaches do, and I've done it with some of my clients, which is you actually do a timeline. So you go back to birth, and then every 5 years, you plot, every 5 years up till your current age, and you plot on there what happened to you at what age, and what disruptions can you recall. And then you go back and you look at it again and go, well, what happened as a result of that disruption? Like, what happened after that? And what did that cause me to do? And what did that cause me to do? And, of course, when I write about this, talk about this, I'm doing a podcast about it now, it causes me to really evaluate and look at the very things that I'm talking about. And so, my life was full of many disruptions, and I won't bore you with them here. But each of those disruptions throughout my childhood, and then into my early adults, and then into my life now, the pattern I found was each of those disruptions informed my life view. Like, they literally shaped how I was going to live the next phase of my life. So, for example, a childhood disruption informed me that things were not always stable, that things could change and that they could be disrupted. And therefore, it taught me at a very, very young age that somehow there was a level of independence that I had to develop for myself, because life wasn't always going to be stable or secure for you as a child. And then if I look further on as I got older, and, I had a horse accident when I was 10, where a horse trampled me and landed on my chest. And I looked at that and I went, oh, yeah, it was not, I got rushed to the hospital, and it was not life-threatening. I got the wind knocked out of me, but it was very formative in that I remember it so vividly as at that time going, oh, right, okay, what is it that what do I want from my life at 10? Where is this all going? So each of these disruptions, and then of course, get to 20, my father died. I was 20 years old. He was 43, major disruption, but it informed my urgency to get things done in this lifetime. And then the disruption of, recently for myself with my husband's health. And so that disruption caused me to go, well, wait a second, life is precious. Life, what am I focusing my life on? So I give you those personal anecdotes simply to point out that each of those disruption points woke me up to a new level of who I was and informed my choices in my life. And it put me on a trajectory very young. Like, I remember being asked at 10 years old what I wanted to be in my career. And I remember saying I wanted to be a psychologist. And how fascinating is that? Because that is, my life has been psychologically informed. I don't have a degree, but I have a lot of psychological training and knowledge and experience. And so that's fascinating. And then you look at other experiences that you have and you go, oh, well, that if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have ended up here. So, that to me is the change isn't here to break us, it's here to awaken us. And if we can reframe that, we start to feel less like a victim of change, and we start to become more of a what I would call a soulful participant, where we're going, oh, wait a second, I don't like what's happening right now. I don't want this to be happening right now, but I can feel that there's going to be some reason why it's happening right now. And again, this isn't spiritual bypassing. It's not rose-colored glasses. This is being present in our lives with the reality of what's happening and choosing to expand our perspective to a more overarching perspective so that we can see it from multiple angles versus just an angle of this is happening to me. We hear a lot about people's circumstances. A lot of people will blame their circumstance as to why they're unhappy or why they can't be peaceful or why they can't lead properly. I've had many leaders say to me, it's my team, or I don't have the right people on my team, or if only I had, more trained people, or if only that more people were applying for the positions. Like, all of those are circumstances. They're valid. And another way of looking at that is, okay, let's use the example of finding good people. Why is it such a challenge today? Well, it's because people's views on work are changing and shifting. They don't want to just do work because we're telling them to. They want to do work that's meaningful. They want to do things that are rewarded. They want to be recognized. Those are all normal human needs and drives. And so as a leader, if we look at it from that lens and go, well, okay, wait a second, being a leader now requires me to grow and learn at the speed of change. Am I up for that? Because if you're up for that, then you're being awakened constantly by the ongoing change. But if we resist it and we go, oh, well, if only these conditions were perfect, then I would feel better and I would be able to go to this flow that Cheryl talks about. It's more about reframing our circumstance into something that is palatable at first, and then to see it as growth opportunity. And I realize that for many of us, our circumstances are overwhelming. Trust me, I understand that. And the exercise that I've been able to put myself through in the last few years is this happening because I need to learn how to be more compassionate? Is this happening because I need to learn to slow down and be present with my life as it is? It's not happening because I'm a bad person. It's not happening because life sucks. It's happening because life means we have circumstances that we have to deal with. And I think a big part of maturing as an adult, the maturation phase is what we're in now as a society. And the maturation phase says, hey, this change doesn't make me a victim. This change makes me an opportunity to show what I got, to flexible my mind, to show that I got the ability to deal with this, that I can solve this, that I can, and I don't have to do it on my own, that I can ask for help and support and resource. So an exercise from this particular episode that I'd like you to do is the one I mentioned about the timeline, and really look at the patterns of how you've grown. Then the next step to that is, what is your current circumstance that you're in right now that maybe is unpleasant for you? You don't really want to be in it. But could you stretch your mind just a little bit into inquiry and ask yourself, could I reframe this to this is helping me grow? And then ask yourself, in what ways is it helping me to grow? Because right now for leaders, I know many, many leaders are challenged with employee attitudes. And my question when I coach leaders is to say, well, how are those attitudes causing you to have to lead in a new and different way? And that question often creates a major pause of thought, because it's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's true. I used to lead this way, and now it's causing me to lead with more open mind, with more compassion, with more curiosity. Those are all much more positive approaches to change than resistance, reaction, retaliation. We want to really elevate ourselves to that, looking for the growth. How is this change causing us to grow? And if we circle back to the beginning where I said, we're evolving as a society, take a look at where society was just a decade ago and where we are today. And You might find negative examples, but I urge you to go check out Peter Diamandis and anybody who works on the future. Crime is lower than it's been in decades, and they do believe AI has contributed to that. There's more access to information in impoverished countries, as well as access to resources based on, again, AI and philanthropy and people joining together to solve world problems. The moonshot projects that Peter Diamandis is part of have created solutions in health. We're seeing health breakthroughs that have never happened before. There's a vaccine for cancer now that's being developed. We can look at the change as, we're going to hell in a handbasket. Or we can look for the awakenings that are happening as a result of the change. And from that perspective, I believe as a humanity, we are headed for good.